This is the plaintiff, Adela Donata. She says the defendant, her ex-boyfriend, stole her dog, refuses to give it back, and now she's in therapy trying to deal with this terrible mess. The defendant has no right taking her dog from her. He's ruined her life, and she's suing him for every penny of the $5,000 he owes her. This is the defendant, David Hoffman. He says he'll never give the dog back to the plaintiff because it's his dog. He paid for it. He rescued it when she abandoned him in Europe, and he's keeping it. He's pretty darn sure the law's going to be on his side today in court, and the whole mess of this is a doggone shame, but it's all the plaintiff's doing. He's accused of dog napping.
All parties, please use your right hand. Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas. Adele Donata, you are suing David Hoffman for $5,000, the cost of a dog and the cost of your therapy because you don't have the dog. Tell me what happened. You two were dating.
Yes, we met actually in a church social. Then we began dating. He bought me the dog. I had asked him for it.
And this is what year? I'm sorry?
2012.
Okay.
I really wanted a source of comfort at that time. I hadn't yet been diagnosed with PTSD.
PTSD from what?
From a variety of factors. I have 4 cases of domestic violence against me. So it's basically been a lifetime of trauma. Issues with my family, issues with my ex-partner, also issues with my ex-fiancé. So
Okay.
it's been a build-up. Right now I'm going through therapy for it. It took a while to realize what was going on.
Okay. So then what happens?
We then were dating on and off for a few years.
When you were off, who would have the dog?
I did.
Okay. He paid for the dog, right?
He paid for the dog.
But you, according to you, it was a gift for you.
Yes, I
Did
have
you
documentation.
Go ahead.
I have documentation that it was all in my name.
Okay, may I see it? And what kind of dog was this?
This is a Yorkie poo.
A
It's
Yorkie
mix.
poo. All right. Then what happens?
I went to Berlin with the
Okay.
dog in October of 2015.
Were you guys off? You weren't dating then?
He had let me stay with him. We were working things out
Okay.
to see whether we would continue.
And what did you go to Berlin for?
I went to Berlin to work on an online project.
Okay.
So I went to Berlin with the dog. At that point, it was registered as an emotional support dog. So I have the documentation for that.
And what did you need the emotional support for?
After being diagnosed with PTSD, I'd been hospitalized at that point twice. So basically, a psychologist felt that the dog would give me a source of comfort, that I should take the dog with me during plane travel, as well as hotel stays, that I should always have this animal with me to care for, sort of to reaffirm my self-esteem.
Okay.
So I
What
had
if
the
I'm
dog.
allergic to dogs and you're next to me on the airplane? Then what? I got to get off? Okay.
So I had the dog with me in Berlin. At that point,
What time frame are we talking about?
I went to Berlin in October of 2015.
Okay.
I was hospitalized again in Berlin in December.
And when you're hospitalized, what are you hospitalized for?
Typically, it's exhaustion. I'm just learning to set my limits. Again, I've undergone a lot of emotional abuse.
No,
for
but
people.
how does your exhaustion manifest itself?
Generally, I pass out. I become, there's usually a little bit of anemia involved. I pass out, sort of have a difficulty
Okay,
relating.
when were you hospitalized in Berlin?
In December.
Okay. And what happens to the dog when you're hospitalized?
It was with the people I was staying with. They had the dog at that time.
Okay.
Then
How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for about, I believe it was about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point, I had some communication from my ex-partner, Dave.
And
It
you're
was very
dating or you're not dating?
We're not dating.
But why? And you're talking to each other. Why? Because you're a big part of each other's lives. He cares about you.
He
How
had
does he
been
even know you're in the
financially
hospital in
supporting me.
Berlin?
He had been financially supporting me.
Oh, even when you're not dating, he's financially supporting you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So after that hospitalization, I developed foreign accent syndrome as a symptom of my emotional trauma.
I'm sorry, what?
Foreign accent syndrome.
Foreign
Accent syndrome. Yes.
What does that mean?
That means that initially, as a child, I did not have this accent. Yes. It's a symptom of severe emotional abuse. There's other people it's happened to.
Are you pregnant?
Yes, I am. I'm 7 months pregnant.
Who's are you with the father, I guess?
No, my ex-fiancé
now-
in Italy. I have a police report against him also. Yes.
You leave the dog with the people you're living with, and what happens?
Basically, I didn't have any further communication with them. I told them
With
I would
them?
come back. Yes, I told them I would come back to get the dog.
When did you finally come back to get the dog?
I did not, as the dog was no longer there.
Yeah, but when did you finally find out the dog was no longer there? How long after leaving?
I found out that the dog was no longer there in March.
So 3 months later?
Yes.
Who did you think was taking care of the dog? You just assumed they'd take care of the dog, but you're not communicating with them? You just assumed
He
it?
told me that
He who?
Dave,
Okay.
that he was going to do something about the dog.
Meaning?
I didn't know what at that point.
You didn't ask?
I wanted to get away from him.
From who? The guy paying the bills or the dog or who?
Dave,
Okay.
as well as the people I was staying with, I've had some problems with people.
I can tell.
Yeah.
No, I
So,
understand that.
yeah.
And, all right, Mr. Hoffman, let me hear your perspective on this.
The basic outline of the facts, I don't really, it's more or less all there. And I don't know, I don't know about the medication thing, I don't remember that part, but I did buy her the dog. It was her dog, okay? I'm not trying to say that I'm rescinding a gift or something. I'm saying
Right.
it was her dog, for sure. When she left for Europe, she was supposed to go from October to, like mid-October to mid-January. That's the limit of a tourist visa, 90 days.
Right.
Okay, in December, yes, she did end up going to the hospital.
How did you learn she was in the hospital?
My understanding is that she didn't go to the hospital, that the U.S. consulate put her in the hospital.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to elaborate.
My understanding, I wasn't there, is that it was she went to the U.S. consulate and they took her to the hospital.
When
She
did
was
she go to
having a psychotic episode.
At the U.S. consulate.
She told Uni, the woman she was staying with, that she was going to the bus stop to meet me in Berlin. Well, I wasn't in Berlin.
Okay.
And she was very concerned about that. And I said, we have to call the police. We have to alert every possible authority.
How did you find out she was in the hospital?
Eventually, a German policeman told me that.
Okay.
And then she was in the hospital there. And I spoke with the people that were taking care of her. At first, she could not communicate with them. They wanted to know more about what her history was and things like that. And I told them what I knew.
When you guys stopped seeing each other, why was it?
That was her decision. I mean,
Okay.
it was,
All
it
right,
was
so
never
now-
quite 100%.
all
right, so sorry, go ahead.
Let me just ask you, so now you've located her, the German police officer tells you where she is, and
Yes.
what happens?
Well, I talked to the people that are the staff there at the hospital. They wanted to know this, that, the other thing. And then they said, eventually, she's got this plan to go to Vienna. And she said, you're going to spring for that. And I told the people there, I said, use every persuasive tool you have not to let her go there. I'm not paying for that. Nothing.
Why were you paying for all this out-of-town stuff? Because you were hoping the relationship would be salvaged? And
She didn't have anywhere to go.
well, when people don't have somewhere to go, they don't necessarily go to Berlin.
Well,
Or
okay,
Vienna.
her father kicked her out and her mother kicked her out, and she has nobody else. What was I supposed to do, let her sleep on the street?
No, I'm talking about Vienna and Berlin. I'm talking about the trip to Europe.
Well, that didn't really, cost a lot of money. That wasn't an expensive item. She was staying at somebody's house.
All right, then what happens?
Well, she was there for something like 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then she left and went to Vienna.
Oh, she did go to
That
Vienna.
was January 6th.
On whose nickel did she go to Vienna?
Well, she might have had like a couple $100 left or something, because
okay.
she didn't have enough to check into a hotel there.
Okay.
And she might have had enough for a train ticket, but not enough to stay anywhere there. The woman she was staying with before that told me she had to go. Her husband is from England. They were going to England for 3 weeks for Christmas. She said, I have to do something with the dog.
All right, so
I said, okay, put it in a kennel,
and you foot the bill
and
for
I'll
that.
pay for that. Don't worry
Okay.
about. We'll deal with that later. Okay.
Okay.
So, she did that. I said, we'll take care of the dog later. She came back. The woman in Germany came back to her home and said,
And then
what
calls
do you
you and
wanna do
says,
with
what
the
are you going
dog?"
to do about the dog? And
Okay.
by now, it's how many weeks later?
It was, I think, January 26th of last year. So in other words, Adela, left Germany before the dog did. 3 weeks before. The dog was still in Germany on January 6th.
Did you go to Vienna?
I did go to Vienna.
And you left the dog with who?
I left the dog. They told me he was in a kennel.
Okay.
So I left the dog in the kennel.
All right, but what did you think was going to happen to your dog? At what point do you believe you abandon the dog and the right to be its owner?
Well,
Because he ends up paying to have the dog flown back.
I don't know.
What'd you pay to have the dog flown back?
That part wasn't that much. That was about 400 euros. I think the whole package was 1,310 euros, but that was about 700 plus for the 3 weeks in the kennel. That's pretty expensive.
Okay,
I
go
shouldn't
ahead.
say kennel. Doggy daycare. Kennel is a bad word. That's like concentration
Honestly,
camp.
this is we are going to self-destruct as a society. Okay, go ahead. What were you going to say? Why
I
did
just
you
feel
go to
like,
Vienna and leave the dog
I went to
behind?
Vienna to try to start work on a book project that I'm working on now that I actually have some leads on. I ended up, he paid for 2 nights at a hotel for me in Vienna. One night was in one hotel, Hotel Royal. The second night was in another hotel. He paid for a plane flight for me out of Vienna. He
When
was
did
trying
he
to get me to
stop
go back.
paying your bills?
When I stopped accepting money from him.
The last thing, I sent her the ticket from Vienna. I said, here you go. I found a ticket for $200. I said, this is the last straw.
When did she get back to the U.S.?
August.
Okay, and so she stays in Vienna from January to August.
Oh, no. She went to Slovenia, Croatia, met the Italian guy, went to Italy, and then...
Got pregnant from the Italian guy.
Correct.
When did you realize she had a British accent?
They told me that in the hospital. I mean, I told them, I said, I heard that on the telephone. Eventually, they let me speak to her, and I told them, that's not her normal voice. And
All right, so she comes in August, and what happens?
she first was like, I'm coming over, don't worry, I have the keys, I'll come in. I was like, well,
You
I'm
hadn't
not-
changed the locks to your house?
No.
When do you worry? When do you worry? Seriously. I mean,
I
like
was
at
worried
some...
the whole time about it. I'm worried about
No,
it right
no,
now.
I don't mean that. I mean, when do you worry about you?
Well, that wasn't such a big deal. I mean, then I did change the lock, and then she came with these cops, and that was the cops being jerks. That was like they were complete.
Are you dating somebody else now?
No.
Maybe you should.
Well, that's
None of my
is that
business.
a-
It's
is
true,
that a-
but
is that a- that's a
but
little cheap shot there.
No. I just got to tell you, there are some issues here,
I'm
and
very aware of that.
but you still want to build a life with her? Is that
No,
like?
are you kidding me? No, it's over.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, no. I did what I could.
So
and that's
now-
it. I'm
now-
exhausted.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. Is there such a thing, do you suppose, as foreign accent syndrome?
Definitely no.
Definitely no.
Yeah.
Is it possible that when somebody gets traumatized or abused, that emotionally, that they can develop an accent?
Yeah, possibly,
Have you? Does this make actually? There's a very famous celebrity that this once happened to, that she started talking in an English accent and then had a meltdown. Does this make any sense to you?
I think it does. I think if you're traumatized, similar like PTSD or something, that there can be some effects that we don't really expect. Like an accent could definitely be something that I would see.
Okay, just turned serious. Going inside the courtroom.
Okay, so now you've got the dog. You've had the dog for how long?
About a year
Okay.
to date.
And then when you had it for 9 months, she comes to your house with the police. Tell me about that.
Well, a couple of cops walked in my door, and I said, "What are you doing in my house? If you don't have a warrant, get
What,
get
did
out
they
of my
knock?
effing house." No,
They just literally walked in?
they literally walked in.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Okay, go ahead.
So these guys came in there, and I told them get out. So they got out, and they gave me a lot of, they tried to intimidate me into letting her in
I'm
my house.
quite surprised that they just walked in like that. I mean,
Yeah, well, so they get in there. We have a whole row. I said, I'm not letting anybody in my place without some kind of warrant or summons
Good.
or something.
Good.
And the guy says, I said, what are you here for? He said, this is an illegal eviction. They said, well, she lived here for 30 days. I said, well, that was like months ago. That's over. He said, well, you didn't get an order of eviction. Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I
So
lived at a friend of mine's 8 years ago for 3 months. Can I go back to his house? He lives in the same place.
So
He's
you
got a-
explained the law to the police officers.
He's got a wife and 2 kids now, but maybe
Yeah.
that'd be, Anyhow, then 2 more cops came, and they finally called a supervisor from the police. And I told the policeman,
But
said,
she
if
wasn't there to get her belongings. She was there
she
to
was
get the
there
dog.
not to get the dog. There's some reason she doesn't want the dog. She wants money for the dog. I mean, she was there to get some things. I told the cop, I said, look, I'll be happy to get her things.
But
if
nobody's
there's a
coming
few
in.
scraps in the place, I'll take another look for them. But I'm not letting her in, okay? And so the cop said, okay, we're leaving. I said, hold on a second. I went and I found like a few scraps of things, maybe in a couple of drawers, put them in there and gave them back to her.
Okay.
And that was the end of it.
So when did she ask for the dog? So you're
never
saying she
really
didn't even
quite
ask for the dog in September?
She didn't ask. I don't think she's asking for the dog now. I mean, you know, I don't think she was.
You want the dog?
I'm living in a place that's a shelter for maternity home where they don't allow pets. I also have him listed as domestic violence.
So
he's not telling
why are
the story.
you here?
He's not telling the story of what happened with the police. The police had not set foot in the apartment. He insulted them. That's why they had to call the supervisor. It was not. It's not. He's not telling the truth.
Right, but what is it you want?
I would like compensation for the dog, which was my property. He bought me many things during the relationship. They also has things of mine in that apartment that are still there.
But what you sued for was the cost of the dog,
Yes.
which you didn't pay, but it's yours, so
Yes,
you
mine.
feel, according to you, that it's still yours.
Yes.
And then you want the cost of therapy bills. Why would
Yeah.
he have to pay $2,387 to you for therapy bills?
Because he's had the support dog for this whole time.
Why don't you go to the pound and get a dog that can help you with the...
I suppose I could after
Right,
I
instead
get
of the
through
Yorkie poo.
this. Yeah, that is the dog I had. That was the dog I bonded to.
That's the dog you bonded to that you haven't been with in how long?
I haven't been with that dog now probably for over, it's over a
You
year.
want me to order him to give you the dog? No, right?
He could. Can I wait to have it delivered, or I don't know how am I supposed to take care of it? Like my
You're
life
not.
has gone so
Not only are
badly.
you not supposed to take care of it, but I'm not sure how you're going to take care of that baby. And you need to listen to me, Adele. Listen to me. Everybody goes through tough times. You appear to always go through tough times, and you need to figure out your own stuff. And your own stuff includes you being responsible for yourself. And now it's not just you. Now you're going to be responsible for two people, not one. You've had trouble being responsible for one. Now you're going to be responsible for two, because that baby is depending on you, to pony up and to get your stuff together. So what I have in front of me is a lawsuit for not the dog return, but the cost of the dog, because you feel that he stole the dog from you.
Yes.
But the scenario I am hearing is not him stealing the dog, it's him saving the dog that you abandoned.
No,
So I'm ruling
I
in the
could've gone
defendant's
back.
favor. And no, he doesn't have to pay for your missed therapy for a dog you haven't had in over a year, or for the cost of the dog, because if it weren't for him, that dog would have been in a pound in Berlin, because that's what those folks were gonna do.
That's
My
not
verdict
true.
in this case is for the defendant.
Well, the plaintiff certainly fails to prove her case here in the People's Court. She got some pretty good advice from the judge. This foreign accent syndrome.
Yeah.
You didn't have this accent when you went.
No, it's a symptom of trauma.
It just showed up.
Yeah, other people have had it happen to them.
That's that's shocking.
Yeah, it is.
And finally, what do you think about the advice the judge gave you?
I know that I'm going to be a good mother. I have to get away from people like him. That's
Well,
just the
You got away
answer.
for a good while. It's
Yeah,
not your problem
so,
now. Your problem
yeah.
is taking care of the baby.
Exactly.
All right, good luck.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Mr. Hoffman, who is the defendant, who's a lawyer, were you concerned about losing this case when you came in here, being a lawyer?
I think I had a pretty strong position, so I was pretty confident.
Yeah, okay. What about the puppy? What happened to it?
Oh, I still have her.
You got it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
I take her to walks, take her to the dog
So
run.
you bonded with her?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very much. Okay. That was a very interesting case, Harvey. What do you think?
By the way, Doug, judges in small claims court don't have the power to return property, and besides that, she abandoned the dog. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.